Hey guys, Cam McClellan. Welcome to this week's session of Open Kitchen. Here with Michael Beresford. We've got a lot of clients send in questions, so we thought this is a good way to approach those when they need a bit more explanation and a bit of general discussion. We really want to bring in a few people later weeks from internally within the business and drill into what they do and what value they provide clients. To really give you guys an insight into what occurs within a property investment business, and really take the info that you send through and try and unpick it and unhinge those and debunk some of the myths in the property industry to cut through some of the white noise for you guys.
Yeah, sounds good. What are you talking about today?
Today, the big one that I've got two people sent in this week, so I thought we'll rate them, and if the majority are saying we want to talk about a topic, we'll hit that. So negative gearing. So I want to talk about negative gearing in the term of the definition of the term is a bad thing. Negative gearing, yeah. But I've used negative gearing for a long time. I think it has benefits, disadvantages. So I want to talk about exactly what negative gearing is. Probably give people a quick snapshot of where negative gearing came from and what it was designed to do within our community. And then we can talk about the goods, bads, and the what ifs as an investor and how it affects you. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Do you want to give people a quick snapshot on what negative gearing is, how it works? As clear as possible, and I'll cut in when you get too technical. Michael's a finance guy, so he gets a bit technical.
I'll keep it really simple. I'm used to talking to you. Negative gearing is basically the term that's given to the process of how you claim tax benefits. Okay, so if we use an example with investment property, you're able to reduce your taxable income due to the tax deductions that you have with an investment property. So let's say, for example, that your income was 100K per year. Okay, if you earn 100K per year, then over the course of the year, about $25,000 worth of tax is paid by your employer to the tax office. Okay, now let's say that you have an investment property, and that property brings in 20 grand of rent. There you go. But across the loan interest, the property management, the rates, insurance, all of the other costs, plus your depreciation, if you've got it, depreciation is really important, you might have $50,000 worth of tax deductions. Okay, so basically the difference between the rent coming in, which is 20K, and the tax deductions, which is 50K, leaves us a difference of minus 30. So that gets applied to the income that you earn and used to calculate the tax that you pay on that income. So by bringing your income down from 100 down to 70 with those deductions, on 70 grand, you'd need to pay about $17,000 in tax over the year. Okay, so basically the difference between the $17,000 that you have to pay on the 70K and the 25K that you originally had to pay without the deductions, that difference being 8 grand is what would come back into your pocket. So there's a quick workflow, I guess, on the result of negative gearing, but that whole process of reducing your taxable income and getting tax back is what negative gearing is.
So I think investors and people who have multiple properties, the first property you sort of just go by what the accountant says. As you get multiple properties, you really dig into the taxation benefits and you see how that applies to you, and you get to know it after a few years of having a few properties. Probably a more common way that this sort of benefit is used in everyday Australians is car allowances and depreciating cars and the running costs of cars.
Yeah. Well, a really common mistake that we hear about is people buying assets to simply reduce their tax. So the new car's the classic one, end of financial year. I know where I bought my car's been bombarding with emails in the last 4 weeks, so up into the end of financial year.
So you're going to upgrade?
No.
Come on.
I'm a smart investor, Cameron. So
don't be a sook upgrade.
Upgraded last year.
You deserve a new car.
You got to buy the cheapest car your ego can handle.
Oh,
so the you made me lose my train of thought. So the thought of buying a brand new car, which is a depreciating asset, it loses value over time, just to get some tax back, is very illogical, because you're basically spending money to lose money to get a little bit of money back.
Okay. So just to really simplify this, and look, I really value accountants, so don't take this the wrong way, accountants. So I've got a team of accountants that work here. I think we keep them in that other room out there. We've got a team of accountants that work for us. I've got multiple external accounting firms that come in and work with us, so I value the advice accountants give me, and I value the role they play. But it frustrates me. Some of the worst advice accountants give when they talk to, and some of the bad advice that accountants give to everyday Australians is to go and buy a car to reduce their taxable income.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael hit the nail on the head before when he said they're buying a depreciating asset. So I do talks at Year 12 kids regularly, and we talk about 4 distinct different things. So when we talk about assets and liabilities, so appreciating assets, depreciating assets, beneficial liabilities, and non-beneficial liabilities. So appreciating assets, obviously the value of something goes up. Depreciating cars goes down. And don't give me the crap about classic cars go up in value. You don't drive classic cars around day to day. Non-beneficial liabilities, and so that's basically bad debt and good debt. Yeah, good debt is attached to an appreciating asset. Bad debt is attached to an asset that'll go down in value. So when an accountant says go and buy a depreciating asset, you're spending $1 to get 50 cents back. Yeah.
So I think it's we often talk about making sure that you've got the right team and all that kind of thing. But I think the takeaway message is don't make the primary purpose of any investment decision to be the tax benefit, right? So if you really want the new car and it's a goal you had and you set that and you understand the financials behind it, then go do it, right? But don't go buying a car just so you can get a bit of money back from the government because you actually put yourself further behind.
All right. So we've got the concept of negative gearing. We talked a little bit about assets and liabilities. We should probably explain why negative gearing was designed in Australia. And I think about probably America's a good example of, or a good comparison. So I've got a company over in LA and spend a bit of time over there, going watching basketball and those sort of things. I've got a lot of friends in the States, so I spend a bit of time over in the States. So this is something that I'm fairly familiar with. So in Australia, we provide negative gearing to people who want to buy an investment property and who will allow someone else to live in that investment property. So we're creating housing. The negative gearing component actually makes it affordable for the investor to hold that property. Otherwise, it would become unaffordable. So we wouldn't have enough properties to house people who can't afford to get into their own home. And we do that because we want owner-occupiers and renters spread evenly throughout Australia so we get good community. Yeah. In the States, they do it a different way. They do rental control buildings, and we in Australia and over there they call those ghettos. Yeah. So we don't want ghettos in Australia. Yeah. We want nice community throughout our suburbs, which keeps a good class. We balance everything out, as opposed to having the rich over here and the ghettos over there. Yeah. So they do it a totally different way. Now, I think the way we do it is far better. Really, it's far better. So we really need to maintain the understanding of why we've got negative gearing, because there's no way an investor could hold the volume of properties to provide affordable housing throughout Australia without negative gearing. It just couldn't happen. So I think people lose sight of that when they talk about, and when the latest election comes out and the politicians use it as like let's damn the rich and get save the poor. It's going to hurt the poor more than it is the rich. That's the reality of it if it's removed. But let's talk about the concept. If it is removed, what occurs?
Well, just on that, when people ask me, what do you think about negative gearing, I basically say it's an advance on your pension, right? So if we work hard throughout our lifetime, we pay our fair whack of tax. We pay a lot of tax in Australia. Got some of the highest tax rates in the developed world. We pay our tax, and then when we get to retirement age, the government gives us a pension. Now, if we are buying investment property and even better, building a portfolio over time, then that basically means that we're going to be self-funded in retirement. We're not going to be a pensioner that needs to receive a pension from the government. And so by taking control of our own financial situation, they're basically giving us our pension in advance. So good way to think about it.
What did you do to your thumb?
That was a knife this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Michael's got a flesh wound.
So you asked me a question before about, I guess, the political landscape and negative gearing.
Trying to test whether you can maintain his thought process.
It's early in the week. I'm going well. So basically, what gets lost in all this political bargaining around negative gearing is that both major political parties in Australia support negative gearing for brand new housing. Okay, so for those of you that might have seen some of our 300 odd previous videos, you will have heard us talk about supply and demand being a driver of price growth, and with new property is actually contributing to the undersupply of housing that we've got in Australia. That's why there's inherent price pressure and price growth as a result, and we've got record population growth. Okay, so those people need to live somewhere. And by actually contributing new housing supply, then we're helping to solve that housing availability problem. So both the Coalition and Labor at the last election, and their position hasn't changed until now, they actually are both supporting the fact that negative gearing stays where new housing is concerned. Okay, so we're
grandfathering previous purchases, and
no, not at all. So at the last election, they basically gave everyone 12 months notice on when they were going to implement that change if Labor were successful, which they weren't. But Labor's position is purely to stop negative or repeal negative gearing where established properties are concerned. Okay, so for all those people out there that have got investment properties, don't freak out. If you've made a decision on a certain set of circumstances today and you've been able to get negative gearing benefits, they will remain.
That was the grandfathering clause that I was talking about.
Even if things did change in the future, it shouldn't stop what you're doing today or what you've done in the past. But yeah, it's really just coming down to fixing that undersupply problem is where the political parties are consistent.
And look, governments do crazy things. Don't get us wrong. But if I think forget whether I make money from negative gearing. Yeah, negative gearing, I don't use it anymore. And majority of people, when they get to a certain level with their portfolio, they don't use negative gearing. It helps out everyday Australians when they're trying to build a base portfolio. That's where the advantage comes in. Yeah. So by taking negative gearing out, you're not going to affect anyone who's rich or who's, sorry, I don't want to sound like a wanker, but you're not going to affect anyone who's built substantial wealth because they don't use negative gearing anymore. Mm-hmm. So really, negative gearing is there to provide housing affordability spread through our community, help everyday Australians who want to have a go and try and get ahead of the pack a little bit, and hey, who doesn't? And the other thing to keep in mind, while the government do stupid things, the majority of politicians do own property, do like a bit of negative gearing as well. So they've got to, you've got to think back through and go, how many are going to be pushing something that's going to hurt them? So
they're probably not going to implement something that's going to lose them a lot of votes. So that's where we sit on negative gearing, guys. Hope you found it useful. Anything else you want to go?
Hope it makes sense. No, cool with that.
All good. All right. Catch you next time.
Cheers.